Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Below the 38, episode 38, the weekend that was. This is my favourite show of the week that we do here on Below the 38. My name is Andrew, joined as ever on this early midweek night by Mike and Luke. Below the 38, Korea.com is our website. Don't forget, you're going to find a lot of stadium guides going up as the World Cup takes centre stage in Korea. Because as you're probably aware by now, K-League 1 is in hibernation until the first weekend of July. And now K-League 2 has closed its doors until July the 4th. So a long time to wait until we do our next preview shows. So this will also be our last episode of the weekend that was until sometime in early July. But there is plenty to get through on this week's show. Busan have bottled it. Suwon Blue Wings left too late for another epic celebration. Gimpo returned home after spending more time away than Moses. And Cheongju recording their first win after 13 failed attempts. As ever, here's Mike for a rundown live from Hwa Stadium. Welcome, Mike.
So as you've said, of course, what a decisive round. And the preview show, as we said, is probably the most exciting round so far of the K2. And it could have gone so many ways. I think it really maxed out my drama tolerance for the year over the weekend. So let's go through the big ones. And of course, we'll be leaving our comments because we were all over the place, as we know, over the weekend. So let's just look at the round in context then, in terms of the table. So, as we said, this weekend could have been a real bad one for the Blue Wings. Instead, pretty much everything came up roses for them. Because basically Friday saw league leaders Busan take a 2-0 lead as usual, but they surrendered it to Asan, who really want to keep that playoff narrative going. Anyway, they grabbed the draw on the southeast coast and ended the weekend just 4 points off the playoffs, actually. I still think it's a big shout for them, but fair play, they're in the mix. Songnam, however, I think they've drifted off now. They were held at home to Gimhae, so of course we'll talk more about that later. And Daegu, they won the Friday fixture against Paju. That's 3 wins in 4, so they've gone right up to 4th in the table. And of course, who else but Edgar was netted 20 minutes from time. But Saturday is, of course, the big one of the weekend was. This is the one we're all looking forward to, the one we thought would be possibly one of the most decisive games of the season. Gyeongnam 2, Yongin 2. Sorry, but that did happen. But no, it's the rumble in Hwasong. I remember Hwasong had the opportunity to leapfrog the Blue Wings in the table, but it was an incredible night that saw the Blue Wings basically get off the canvas yet again and find a way to win it. They're now just 3 points behind a Busan side that have just 4 points from the last 3. So again, we'll be reflecting more on that later as somebody was in the stadium. The fun continued on Sunday, and it looks like Cheonan are basically falling off from that playoff challenge now. But they've dragged Suwon FC with them as they drew 2-2. Cheonan actually ended that game with just 9 men after some crazy celebrations and bookings that were kind of pointless in the end. But yeah, so they conceded a 100-minute winner. Again, don't celebrate like crazy is the moral of the story there. But meanwhile, absolute horror. As you said, I'm currently here in my own makeshift Hwa Stadium. As Jeonnam Dragons, they scored a late equaliser at Gimpo through former Ansan man Che Han-sol, who have won the ball off before on the pitch. And that, of course, dents Gimpo's challenge somewhat, but they remain in the playoffs, of course, Gimpo, but yeah, very disappointing there. And as we noted earlier, Gimhae, they've picked up points as well. This is real bad news for Ansan. And of course, we were there in Mokdong on Sunday evening to see Eland actually knock the Blue Wings back out of the automatic promotion places, and they were certainly doing that in the first half until everything went horribly wrong and some loud git next to me absolutely basked in it as Cheongju picked up their first win. And of course, again, horrible weekend at the Hwa Stadium as all those teams below have picked up points. So with that in mind, let's pass over to Andrew to have a little gander at what that means for the table.
The last look at the K-League 2 table before the World Cup break. Before then, I thought it was quite interesting that of the 8 games that took place in K-League 2 at the weekend, only Paju failed to score. There was a time we were lamenting the shortage of goals in K-League 2 in the opening weekends of the season, but coming up to the World Cup, only Padju failed to score. And all of the wins, only 3 wins and 5 draws at the weekend, all the wins were by a single goal. Now, that was probably because Ansa and Greeners had a week off. They are on a 5-game losing streak and would likely have lost by 4 or 5 goals, no matter who they were playing against. Now, does this all mean that we're underestimating the abilities of the teams at the lower end of the table against the sides that we expect to be challenging for the title? Are they able to stay in the fight a little bit longer? Are they just a little bit more competitive than they were before? Or are the better teams just simply poorly coached? You can decide on that yourself. Now, because of Chungbuk Cheongju's win, that means that Jeonnam Dragons now have the longest winless streak in the league. The Dragons won their opener in Gyeongnam, but they've now failed to win any of their last 13 matches. Unbelievable stuff. As a result of that, they are just 1 place and 2 points above the relegation promotion playoff. Who would have expected that at the start of the season? And with the World Cup break coming up, it's also worth pointing out that just 2 teams, Seoul Eland and Hwasong FC, have not had a break yet. Hwasong will sit out the first weekend when we return, the weekend of July the 4th. We'll probably never know if it had what impact, if indeed any impact, on Seoul, Eland and Hwasong. Both teams lost 2-1 at the weekend. Both teams lost 2-1 at home. Both teams were leading 1-0 at half-time. And in both cases, they conceded late to lose the matches. Are they just tired because they've had to play consecutive weekends unlike everybody else? Or is there no connection between those results? Who knows? We might never know. Anyway, so Busan I-Park are 3 points clear of the Blue Wings, who are 3 points themselves clear of Seoul Eland. It's very, very tight after that. Is Daegu in 4th on 25 points, are 5 points clear of Cheongnam Asan. That name just keeps cropping up when we talk about potential playoff spots. They're down in 8th. You get the feeling that everybody south of Cheonan are likely to be out of promotion contention at the moment, simply because nobody seems to be able to go on a long winning streak in this league. And at the bottom where it really matters, Gimhae have picked up another point. Unfortunately for them, so did Jeonnam Dragons. At one point, they closed the gap to 1 point at the bottom, but it's back to 2. Ansa and Greeners are staring at 17th at the moment at the back of their 5 straight losses. But that's it until the first weekend of July. All very exciting. How about we talk about the games we went to? For the first time in a while, we should say this. Luke and I have taken a bit of time off watching football. For whatever number of reasons. For Luke, there was no K-League 1, and for me, it just couldn't really be arsed for some of the more recent fixtures. But we were at matches recently. In fact, I went to 2, Mike went to 2, and then a full festival of football on Saturday, and Luke went to 1. I might as well just start with you then, Luke, because you probably went to the most significant match of the weekend. That was Hwasong FC 1, getting absolutely wellied by the Suwon Blue Wings 2.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know I was going until Saturday morning. I got a text from one of my Infotron friends saying, I want to go to this game. I'm driving down. Can we go together? And I thought it'd be good to go and check it out and see what happened because it was such an important match. But also it gave me a chance to film in and around the ground because it's something I wasn't able to do last year. I got to the stadium and it was like a Suwon home game. There were 10 blue shirts for every orange one. Hordes of people at the ticket office in Suwon shirts. The line outside of the Hwasong store was all Suwon fans, interestingly. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game. The stadium filled up pretty slowly. We were in an hour before the game, and by kickoff time, it was absolutely rocking. They even had fireworks at kickoff. I've not seen that since Incheon on the opening day of the season. But yeah, so it was good. Hwasong took the lead just before the break. Suwon deservedly equalised about 20 minutes before time, and then in the 93rd minute, Hwasong thought they'd won it, only for VAR to rule the goal out for an errant elbow as the striker ran through on goal. And it was that man, Ilyachenko, in the 99th minute who scored a goal, and the noise from the Suwon end was loud. You could hear them outside the ground and where we'd parked for at least 20 minutes after the game. I don't know if they got balloons and glasses and things to celebrate, but I'm sure they enjoyed it. No, it was great. And Hwasong put out an announcement before the game saying no Blue Wings fans and no Blue Wings shirts are allowed in the home ends. But if you support any other K-League team and you don't like Blue Wings, come along in your shirt. So I saw Seoul fans, I saw a load of Incheon fans, I saw a John Book shirt in the crowd. Yeah, it was great. 15,200 people at Hwasong. I don't think they've had a crowd that big before. And yeah, it felt like a proper game. There are 2 videos that have just gone up on YouTube about my experiences there and about the Hwasong ground generally. But yeah, considering last year I swore off K-League 2 and never wanted to go back, it was nice to dip my toe back in.
You might actually find a lot of content on Below the 38 for the next few days. Video footage of the matches we went to. I like that idea of just allowing fans to wear club jersey, basically neutral. They're not really neutral, but other team fans, because Jeju obviously have that section in their stadium called the All Fan Zone. Occupies about 6 or 7 blocks, kind of bordering up against where the away fans are. And it's a really cool idea. You just show up in that section if you want to wear a jersey from one of the teams not playing. Again, I don't really understand the whole thing about no away fans, and when there's no other seats available, it just seems a bit silly. Whatever, it sounds good. I wish more teams would do that, because as we know, most stadiums in Korea are nowhere near full to capacity, not even close to it. So just do whatever you can to bring more people, let more people watch him. These are 2 leagues that badly need bums on seats, and this is a good way of generating interest, generating a little bit of revenue, and just some talking points, some storylines. That was Saturday. Friday, Mike and I were at Tancheon. My second visit to Tancheon this season. Still haven't seen Songnam win there this year. What did you make of that? It was pretty diabolical, wasn't it?
I mean, Songnam did everything but score, really. I find it just bizarre that every time Songnam went forward, particularly in the first half, they looked like scoring. They were just running through freely, and the Gimhae defence was awful, and yet every time they would throw a body on the line, even off the line, or etc. It was quite a heroic performance in that sense. I mean, I'm much more disturbed. I've now seen Gimhae in 3 different leagues, which I wonder how many people have done that. But yeah, to see, obviously, it was settled on 2 penalties. I think Songnam would be disappointed. It was nice to see Gimhae go mental when they scored and charge off to their fans. Because those little moments that you just, I always wonder if the bigger teams, you just never really get the point that there may not be many of you, but you matter. And it's really hard to get those moments when you're fighting at the bottom of the league. But I don't know how you made of it, but as I said, Gimhae have got some fight in them, but they played well against Gimpo, but they certainly didn't deserve to come away with a point on the balance of this game, I thought.
Yeah, they were very fortunate, and there was a VAR decision right at the end. And I think when the fourth division put up 7 minutes of added on time, you're expecting the whole kitchen sink treatment for Gimhae, but we just never saw that. It almost felt like the overturned or the non-awarded penalty around the 88th minute, 89th minute, it just seemed to suck all of the momentum out of Songnam. This was my first experience of seeing Gimhae play, so reminiscent of the time I saw Real Madrid back in 2002 for the first time. Anyway, I thought the game was nothing special, but there was a poignant night for Songnam. They honoured a gentleman called Pakyu Nam in the 7th minute. He was one of the founding members of Ilhwa Chunhwa, the football club, way back in 1989, and he served as chairman when they were based in Seoul, Cheonan and Songnam until the club was bought over by the City Hall in 2013. So in total, he helped lead Ilhwa Chunhwa / Songnam FC, Songnam Ilhwa Chunhwa to 7 K-League 1 titles, hence the applause in the 7th minute, 3 Korea Cups and 2 AFC Champions Leagues. Since he has exited the scene, they've been relegated twice and won nothing, and they're still in K-League 2. Park was 89 when he died. You just got to wonder what he made of Songnam. They're now the Magpies in those final 6 or 7 years, because they have really sunk further and further into irrelevance. One of the videos I took at the stadium was just highlighting, I always like going to the East Stand at Tancheon. Then the far end towards where the home fans are, they have their 7 K-League 1 titles, the stars and the years on the wall. And then around the halfway line, they have the Korea Cup. And then down towards where the away fans are, they have the 2 AFC Champions League. And I like that they don't hide from their history, but the current incarnation of this club is just a complete shambles, unfortunately, to the one that's gone before it. So very disappointing to see Songnam struggle the way they are, because they still have the coolest kit and crest in the league.
And the flashiest magpie on stilts.
Yeah. Still hasn't fallen down.
I'm glad it hasn't exploded in the rain or anything like that, because it does look a bit dodgy.
Still time.
It's like somebody from Only Fools and Horses. But it's funny at the end, because they were irate at the end of the match, as you can imagine. They should have won that game. They're playing against a team like they've no business playing Gimhae, Songnam. When you look at Songnam's history and you look at Gimhae's history, they've no business playing against each other. But this is the beauty of football. This is why leagues need relegation and promotion, because crazy things like this can happen. But it's awful to see their demise. But I mean, I'm not a Songnam fan, so it doesn't really matter. But as Mike was saying, Gimhae really enjoyed their day out in Tachan. It's just a pity that it was on a Friday night as well. I know fans can stay over, I guess, the weekend, but there was probably about 40 or so away fans. I haven't checked the stats yet. It's about a 450-kilometer drive from Gimhae to Songnam on a Friday. It's pretty brutal, but it was a bit of fun, I thought.
They have a ticket for the parents as well, with the car bot being seemingly the new mascot.
What about Sunday? Seoul Eland won. Cheongbuk Cheongju FC, the last of the holdouts. It's about time everybody's won, and the timing couldn't have been any better. Imagine going into World Cup break where one of the teams, the K-League 1 or K-League 2, still hadn't won a match for the season. Cheongbuk Cheongju played 13, drawn 10, lost 3. The ridiculous thing about their winless streak is that, okay, they're unlikely to make the playoffs, but because they had drawn so many matches, it simply couldn't be discounted if they put together any sort of a run of form. But they finally won 1-0 down at half-time, and they equalised on 85 minutes. And I think we were saying at the time, the momentum was with them, but you felt that it was all about how much time would be added on. Because you're always that situation you see before where if they just had another 2 or 3 minutes, maybe they'd go on and win this game. There's only 4 minutes added on. I remember thinking that's probably not going to be enough. They didn't actually need 4 minutes in the end. They scored a great counter-attack goal. 92 and a half minutes on the clock. Shirts off, people crying, yellow cards for celebrations, taking the shirts off. They celebrated for so long, there's about another 5 minutes added onto that, where they survived a couple of corners and shots on goal. But yeah, Cheongbuk Cheongju saw it out in the end. For their first win of the year. As I said, people were crying. They were crying to end a 13-game winless streak.
I have a bit of a soft spot for them after last year, to be fair. We went down to their ground. I mean, Incheon won 4-0, but it was a nice ground, even though it's got a running track and stuff. The people there were actually very welcoming. They made an effort to talk to, like, the away fans. And the setup that they have, I mean, for the team that they are, it's a nice little team, nice little ground, and they try their best to make an atmosphere. Yeah, a bit of a soft spot for them.
Mike doesn't like them for some reason. I think they're great. I love Cheongju.
I wouldn't say I didn't like Cheongju. Just in the context of the league, it's inconvenient. Had Ansam been higher up the table, then yeah, it would have been a nice game. Same as the Songnam one, really. Elan should have put that game to bed in the first half, but Elan came out like they'd already played 5 games. They looked knackered in that second half. It was very poor. That the actual, they just weren't energetic while the other team were. But yeah, just the actual winner for Cheongju, I forget who actually scored it, but he looked stunned that the ball was suddenly at his feet, and he basically kind of walked it in. It was, but again, just like Gimhae's goal, the Cheongju fans' reactions when you're slumming it out in the lower regions, and you only win once every few months, and you've travelled. There's an experience there that sounds absolutely it'd be laughed off by the day tripper fans who win for clubs that win cups, but they probably celebrated and felt something that big clubs never feel. That relief, the joy of, and as Andrew
genuine emotion.
Yeah, and as Andrew said, he dropped to his knees in tears.
First, I stood on the back of the railings. I stood on those railings. I was probably standing above. Everybody else was rushing down to the front to where the goal scorers were, but I was standing at the back of a railing in my attire of choice for the game. I felt vindicated to wear what I wore to that game based on what happened. But like you're saying as well, like one of the other things about that game as well was like the goal is, if you haven't seen the Chumbo Chungju winner yet, you need to see it, because it's just a hopeful ball into the box. For some reason, I don't know who the Seoul Elan defender is, he heads it back towards the goal instead of just like knocking it out for a corner or heading it out to the right and then making Chumbo Chungju gather possession and go again. He basically headed it towards his own goal, and then there were two men about 4 yards from the goal line, completely unmarked. It could have been either one of them, just could have walked down in and scored. Because there was a great moment, I don't know if you remember, it was before the equaliser, when they were beginning to get back into the game. Like, oh, could this be, they might salvage a draw on this. Two other players, remember, two Chumbo Chungju players just ran into each other at the end of the box.
It was proper when there's two,
and it was just so good.
Pro Evo or FIFA, you know what I mean? He just,
it was so good. It was just like, yeah, this is the team that hasn't won a match all season, and then to go from that to, as I said, tears in the stand. It was good. It was good fun. So
yeah, I mean, good luck to them. It's just obviously, I'm now looking at, I'm very worried about this team, which won its game again at the weekend. They're coming. They're gonna swap places with Ansan.
Go on, tell us more.
That's all you need to know about the K3. Shihung won again. That'll do. They are, unlike Busan, they are actually keeping it up in that league, and yeah, I don't think Busan, Ho-Chan and that can. They've gone on runs, but as soon as they stop going on their run, they just fall further behind.
They're playing in this K3, this random K3, K4 Cup I saw this coming weekend. So there is football on
Saturday too.
If you're in the Greater Solar, against Ulsan, is that right? Ulsan Citizen, I think it is.
Citizen,
I can't remember. Yeah, so there is. That's the only game on in the Greater Seoul area. If you happen to live in Seoul or Gyeonggi, though, in K1, 2, 3, 4, the WK League continues. In terms of the men's game, I think that's the only game that's on this weekend. It's nearly time to wrap this one up. Our final, the weekend that was, until the second week, or after the first weekend in July. I know that there is one little talking point Luke wanted to bring up today. What is it?
Just with the break coming up now, teams have got 4 weeks off to kind of either take a break and rebuild or just re-energize. I just wondered whether you could give me a team who you thought the break is coming at the right time and the break is coming at the worst time. So K-League 2 edition, is this break coming at a good time or a bad time? Mike, you go first.
I think it's good for Elan because they just looked, they were tipped by many to even win the league. You saw that thing going around on Instagram where a lot of top journalists in Korea had actually said Elan to win the K2 title. And they just looked so abject. They look. I mean, they defeated Ansan professionally earlier in the season. They look like a team that even Ansan could have beaten in that second half. They need to. They've played a lot of the big games now. They need to sit back and analyse and fix themselves if they're really going to have a go at promotion. As for bad, I'm going to probably say Busan because I know they've been stuttering, but they have managed to put points on the board. They've blown teams away. They've managed to get eke out wins or draws. I'm worried that this World Cup break will actually see competitors work them out, maybe make additions, which Busan IPOT perhaps cannot make, and that might mean they will end up dropping out and falling away as the season goes on, but we'll see.
Andrew, you disagree?
Yeah, I disagree on the Busan one. I think they could probably do. The wheels are not exactly coming off. I mean, they've only dropped points in 4 matches all season, which is a really good run of form that they've been on. 2 of those games came in the last 3. I'm not saying they're running out of steam, whatever, but they're not It's not one of the better squads. It's not one of the more expensive squads in K League 2. I don't think they have any superstars in that squad at this level, the level that we're talking about. I was having a quick look there on Transfermarkt. They have the fifth most expensive squads in K League 2 at the moment. So they're behind the two Suwon clubs. I think it is Seoul Eland and Daegu. So the fact that they're first, I think, is an incredible achievement for what they've done with the limited resources that they have. And it's not something we always want to talk about here, but it isn't like the this is probably irrelevant, but it isn't like their good start to the season is just driving thousands of people to Gochok as well. I always find that just disappointing that they can't get more than sort of 3,000 people at a game. But I think that they could probably do it with the month off just to get that squad fresh, because it's going to be brutal, as we know, in the summer. I think if you can have any gaps, any breaks between now and sort of the end of August, I think teams like Busan definitely need that. Probably Gimpo as well. In terms of bad, it was hard to pick this one. I'm going to go for Chong just because you've been waiting 3 months for a win. You finally land one, and then you're told you have to wait about another month before you can try and win another game again. I'd imagine Chumbuk Cheongju, more than most teams, wish they were back out on the pitch this weekend, but they're not. So. Good time for Busan to go on a break. Bad time for Cheongju. Not that it matters for Cheongju because their season it's probably over anyway.
Yeah, and Cheongju's next game I've just checked is Daegu. So
that's a home, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so. It's at home. I went for bad time for Daegu. Actually, they started the season fairly awfully. But in the last 6, they're unbeaten. They've had 4 wins and 2 draws. They look like they're finally finding form, and they're still in and around the playoff area. It's not beyond expectation that they'll stay there or even step up and get into one of the top 2 spots. But yeah, when you're on a run like this, you don't really want to have a break. Good time. I thought it'd be a good time for Paju to have a break. Of the 3 new teams this year, Paju have been doing the best and getting some of the best results. But recently they've lost like the last 3 in a row. They're kind of dropping off a bit. I think this break could come at a good time for them to kind of reset and look at how things are working, and hopefully come back out fresh and finish their first season in K2 on a high.
Just last point, is the answer going to be John Dragons for everybody? Is the biggest disappointment of the season one word only? Would you say John?
Yes.
Because again, I was having a look at their squads, and they have the 7th most expensive squad. The total transfer value of their squad is the 7th in the league, and yet they're very, very close to being relegated.
I mean, like, they haven't had much of a squad turnover and stuff in the last few years. They've kind of kept a lot of the important players. I mean, they've still got Valdivia, and up until this year, he was way and above one of the best players in K League 2 outside of, say, like Suwon Blue Wings or Incheon last year. He's been lusted after by quite a few teams, and I know I said what I said. And then this year he's just in the bad books apparently of the manager, and everything's going wrong down on the south coast, and it's very disappointing. Yeah, in one word.
Yeah. John, I'm drying him. Anything to add to that, Mike, before we wrap up? Are you ready to put an end to this podcast?
I bring a neutral voice to most conversations we have, except for one part of the league, and that's the very bottom of the K League 2. So, sorry, John Nam fans, but good. You stay down there.
To be fair, you've got a 3-point cushion. You're gonna be fine. You've won 3 games. They've only won 1.
We won 5.
5-game losing streak.
Can we break that record?
That 5-game losing. Are Ansan then a team? Because Ansan went into the break with the break, so their break is longer than everybody else's. If we asked this question a week ago, would you said it was a good time or a bad time for Ansan? Because they obviously need to win matches, but also because they've forgotten how to win matches, maybe it's a good thing to just not play football anymore.
Good time for the fans.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Positivity as ever from the WA Stadium. This is it from the weekend that was until July. Can't wait for K League 1, K League 2 return already. There's slim pickings, unfortunately, for the next month, but there is a full schedule of WK League. Get down and watch the local football if you have the opportunity, and the K3, K4 Championship or whatever that's called, taking place in Shihong this weekend. I'm Andrew, Luke, the closet Suwon Blue Wings fan, and Mike joined me on the show today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we will see you next month.